Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. This is very alarming, and I'm giving you guys an alert. Now I've been telling you guys for months now. I've been warning you, months, maybe years even, about these undersea cables. Well, I said when the gloves start to come off, you're going to see them start to cut the undersea cables. It's happening right now. European officials cry sabotage after 2 internet cables are cut in the Baltic Ocean. An unknown player at this point, it's an unknown player, is cutting the undersea cables. And you remember me telling you in shows, I said that what World War III might really look like is you might not know what's going on any longer. You might just wake up some morning, and people all expect, we're going to see the nuclear weapons drop on. No, it might not play out that way at all. You just might wake up some morning and your internet and your not just your internet, but your power's dead too. No news. You won't be able to find out what happened when the gloves really come off on this thing. And it might not be any nuclear weapons. They might not use the nuclear weapons. They might use these tactics instead, Because think of the ramifications. You wake up some morning and you haven't got internet. You haven't got power. Because what I've found out is they've hooked everything, including the power companies, onto the internet. What can I say? It's just so stupid what they've done to us. They've taken us off of a society that was very sustainable and didn't have any vulnerabilities, and they've created massive vulnerabilities for everybody in this society. Because think of the ramifications. If it's not just your community that's the internet down, if it's massive, widespread, half of the world is without internet. Just think of the ramifications, and it doesn't come back on after a few days. Think about what's going to start to happen. No emergency services, no police. The police can't police without the internet any longer. They wouldn't know where to start. Even the military wouldn't know where trucks wouldn't, without the internet, trucks don't know where to go. A taxi cab, everything's connected to it. They can't see. There was a time when there wasn't no internet and everything wasn't connected to it, and they had ways of doing it. They've dumped all those ways. Take your truckers, for instance. They used to keep logbooks and everything, and they used to have dispatchers that would route the trucks manually in books. It was a system that couldn't be taken down with one fell swoop of just cutting a cable. And how do they protect these stupid cables? The cables, some of them, like the ones that feed America internet, they're thousands of miles long. They go all the way across the ocean. They could be cutting the cable 50 miles away from the position where you're protecting it. And you wouldn't even be able to see them because you can't see anything more than 15 or 20 miles across the ocean, open ocean. You can't see it. It's beyond the horizon. It goes down below the horizon. And so how do they even protect them? There's proof here they don't even know who cut these cables. Of course, you know who they suspect cut these cables and who I suspect cut these cables. And it's going to say further in this article who they suspect. It says European officials are looking toward Russia after 2 submarine internet cables in the Baltic Sea were suddenly disrupted in an apparent sabotage operation. Just weeks after the United States warns that Moscow is likely to target critical undersea infrastructure. The cable between Lithuania and Sweden was cut on Sunday, according to Tele-Lithuania, a telecommunications company that runs the link. So they're all running around this morning. Likely, a lot of people probably running around this morning trying to use their phone. They can't because this cable's been cut. But now, people say, they can cut the cables. We got Starlink. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, Starlink isn't going to handle the amount of volume that these cables carry. This is the system that's in place to handle the volume of internet traffic for the world. It's these internet cables. And if they're cut, how long? The next question is, how long until we get service back? Well, just think, it took a long time to put these cables in. They put them in one by one over a period of years. If they get cut, a massive amount of them get cut so that they can't reroute. I don't know. You know how long it takes them to fix things like big things like that? Have they fixed the Nord Stream pipeline yet? It's been a couple years since they cut the Nord Stream pipeline. Have they fixed it? How long is it going to take to fix these two cables that they just cut? Will it take 6 months? Will it take a year? Or will they even be able to fix them at all? Especially if you're at war, and you got enemy submarines going around in the ocean. If you try to fix it, they'll shoot you out of the water again. If you got a boat in there trying to fix a cable, next thing you know, a torpedo's heading at your boat. So, I mean, you guys got to sit down right now and you got to think to yourself, what would the world be like for me if my whole state didn't have internet service? Or maybe the whole eastern seaboard or the western side of the United States or whatever didn't have internet service. What would the people, how would they react to that after a few days or weeks goes by? When there's no police can't route, the trucks can't route, the stores all go empty. Just think about what could happen. What the potentiality is for all of this. And it's more frightening in a way. It's maybe more frightening than a nuclear attack. A nuclear attack, I mean, if it's directly over your head, it's just pip-bang But this could turn neighborhoods into hell zones that would last who knows how long. And no information. Because back when we had newspapers, they couldn't stop a newspaper. And we can't set that. We as a society would not be able to set that system back up that quick, going back to newspapers. They tore up the presses, threw them all in the dump, and sold them for scrap. I mean, we got something better than newspapers. We got cell phones. Tear up those old ink printers and crush them in the crusher and sell them for the steel in them. Get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. We got this great new thing. The great new thing turning out to be these cell phones, these smartphones. Is turning out to be an ultimately a nightmare, because there's numerous reasons why I kind of hate them, honest to God. I see them as, they're actually computers, and they're quite powerful computers. All compressed into that little flat thing you can stick in your pocket or in your purse. So, this article says, is Europe heading straight into World War III? I'm going to give you guys an illustration of what I think this is kind of like, Picture a schoolyard, and there's this big fella. He's a big fella, in the schoolyard. Maybe he's a teenager, but he's one of the bigger kids there, and there's another kid that's a little bit smaller than him, not a lot smaller, but a little bit smaller than him, and he's picking on him and stuff, and they're basically like they're at war with each other, in the schoolyard. And so problems are going on. So he goes into the principal's office, the smaller guy that's being picked on. And he says, what can I do? And the principal says, well, I'll tell you what to do. And he hauls out from underneath his desk, he hauls out a big box full of rocks the size of baseballs. So he slides it across the table to the young guy, and he says to him, here, next time that guy picks on you, you throw one of these rocks at him. So the littler kid, he fills all of his pockets full of these big stones, and he heads back out to the playground. This is what the situation's like. The little guy, maybe he's got a good arm on him. Maybe he can throw really good, and he throws the first rock, and it hits the big guy in the back, right center of the back. Doesn't do that much damage, but it shocks a big guy. Big guy turns around, growls like, "Arr," but he doesn't really do anything. But if he continues to pick those rocks up and throw them at the big guy, eventually he's going to hit his target but good, and then the big guy's going to do something. Because if he keeps throwing those rocks, and that's what the whole thing reminds me of, It's like Ukraine's fired their first volley of ATACMS, U.S. ATACMS. But from what I understand, they've been given permission to use Storm Shadows and Scalp missiles too. And how many of them they got? And just what kind of damage can they do? And at what point, if they keep pushing this button, at what point are they going to get Russia's attention? I mean, seriously get Russia's attention. They might have already got Russia's attention. We got 2 undersea cables cut. Okay? Maybe that's because they're speculating it's Russia. Okay, I'll speculate too. And maybe that's a warning to us because we got a lot more undersea cables. And by gosh, those 2 were cut awful quick. Just like, bang, it comes on the news. Bang, it comes on the news. But if they cut a whole bunch of them and they can't reroute, well, you're not going to find out that they even cut them. You're going to be sitting over here at home and all of a sudden you're just not going to have any internet and you're not going to know why. And you might never know why. Because if they cut a massive amount of them, I think there's like 300 of them or something. If they were to say cut half of them, they couldn't reroute all the rest. It'd just be too much and it would take too long to fix them and you might never see the internet again. And how are you going to find out? How's anybody in the whole world going to find out whatever happened? Nobody would ever know. Because you get all your news, everything is internet. And maybe you think I'm exaggerating or whatever, but I'm not. The vast amount of internet traffic travels through these cables. I wonder to myself, if all of these cables were cut and they said, okay, they can't fix them for say it's going to take them a year, 2 years or whatever to try to fix them, could they make some sort of provisional internet that is isolated, say, to one continent? I mean, could they... I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. Could they do that? I mean, you wouldn't be able to communicate with Europe or you wouldn't be able to communicate with Africa or anywhere else in the world. But could they make an isolated internet just for like North America or whatever, just to get things running? I don't know if they could even do that. I'm not sure. And I think it would be a lot of complications to it, but this is a bad situation with this internet thing. And I'm telling you guys, it's a bigger thing than I pointed it out first, one of the first guys to point it out, and getting other people starting to see it now, how vulnerable we are. Now, this is a good channel. It's called The Enforcer. I listened to them, and it says Ukraine launches full-scale ATACMS strike on Russia. Putin threatens NATO. Enforcer News, and you can see where they're fighting across the front here. And evidently, Russia's changed their nuclear doctrine, and they have, under their new nuclear doctrine, it's very likely that they've got already what they need to do whatever they want to do. In other words, enough waters went under the bridge where they can, under their new nuclear doctrine, they could do whatever. And so this kind of a situation, I'm very uncertain as to see the nuclear option's not the only option that countries would have. There's a lot of other things, that they could do nasty things. And of course, in war, if they have other things that they can do, maybe there's things I haven't even thought of. Who knows? Maybe they got space-based weapons or systems or anything. Maybe they got lasers up there. Gosh only knows. But when the gloves come off, you'll find out. And why you don't find out about it beforehand is the best weapons, and this applies to America too, America, Russia, China, all of their best weapons, their top secret weapons, nobody knows about them, except the people that are in those specialized programs that are creating these super weapons. And so when the gloves come off, then you find out about them because they use them on you. Gosh only knows, they might have weapons that would microwave weapons or something that would fly over and just fry your brain and nothing else, and leave all the infrastructure in place, and stuff like that. Gosh only knows. Now, I'm not trying to scare you guys, but I mean, I'm just speculating too. I don't know if they got these weapons or not. I'm just saying that if they do have them, they're not going to tell you. And let's face it, these nuclear weapons that they got, this 100-year-old, nearly 100-year-old technology. It goes all the way back to the 1940s. So it's like 80-year-old technology, right? And you're telling me in the last 80 years they haven't come up with something even better, something even more effective in 80 years, and the amount of budgets that they have, and the amount of money that they spend on war. But of course, any country, if China develops something like that, or Russia or the United States develops something like that, they're not going to tell anybody. They're going to keep those programs secret because they're not even going to want the enemy to get an inkling or a whiff or a smell of the programs that they're working on. And it was the same way with the nuclear bombs when they were first developing them. Their secret programs were so secret. Very, very secret. So, yeah, it's a frightening time we're living in right now. And this thing, just in the past few days, ever since Ukraine got the okay to use the U.S. weapon systems, it's been really heating up. And there's another factor I want to touch on real quick, is the people factor, the factor of how much fear can you enter into a society when these things become real to the general public. In other words, I'm talking about, and I know this is real to us and stuff, and we're looking at the real news of what's really happening and stuff, but most people haven't got a clue this is all going on right now. At a certain point, when it makes big news and everybody starts talking about it, then they haven't went through this fear cycle. You guys, way ahead of time, you realize the problem, you see the situation, you've had months to deal with it in your mind, to say, okay, this is this and this is that, and this is not new to you. You're watching this and everything, but probably 90% of the population out there, they haven't been keeping up with any of this. They're just playing their video games and going on social media and stuff like that, and they're working real hard and whatever, and they're not paying any attention. But if this becomes the big thing, like say they were to launch a nuclear weapon or something and blow it up, and then it's the big thing, and everybody knows, that sudden fear factor is going to hit them as a jolt because they haven't dealt with it in their mind. It's sort of the thing like, if you're living with a person, in your house, and they're slowly dying over a period of 2 or 3 years, and they're dying, and you go through the whole process. Then when they finally die, you feel bad and everything, and you mourn and everything, but it's nothing like a young person that's going along, they grab their chest, and they keel over dead from a heart attack right there and then in front of you. That strikes you much harder because you haven't dealt with it over a period of time, and it comes suddenly as a complete shock. Well, for these 90% of the people out there who aren't following any of this, and if this strikes up big and hard and something goes hellish, like a nuclear weapon goes off or something like that, and they wake up suddenly from this, how are they all going to react to that? Are they going to panic? Are they going to, maybe it'll show up in dozens of different ways that we can't really configure or even think about or come to understand how it would affect society in general, is what I'm talking about. guys. How it would affect them mentally. You know, like if people wake up one morning and the first thing they see on the TV is Russia's launching nuclear weapons, and they see the big blast, and they say we might be next, and blah blah blah. They're just going to freak. They will totally freak. They might not be able to work that day. They might go home and they might not even be able to come in the next week. And then that has extenuating things, because then you might need something or whatever, and they were the person that handled the phone lines for the whatever you need to do. And then you have to throw your hands up in the air, and society starts to disintegrate from the inside out. If people get too frightened, the fear factor. It's hard to tell how that'll all play out. So we're living in strange times, and we've never been in this territory before, so we don't know how these situations will actually play out in a real world scenario. How people will respond to a third world war. How will they respond to that? And the society is just holding together right now. It's just, but you remember how vulnerable we are during COVID and how things started to shut down and everything, and anyway, I've said enough. You guys realize the situation, and so I wanted to do this report for you guys today, because the situations are coming in fast, and it's a changing environment, and we could actually see something really big happen in the next few days, especially if Ukraine launches more attacks with these, and different types of attacks, with not just ATACMS, maybe with Storm Shadows and Scalp missiles as well. What Russia will, how they will respond, it could be something really big, and so you got to prepare yourself mentally for all of this. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to my show. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.